We're going to first go to Mr. Jim Cochran from Swanton Berry Farms. Signed up. Again, I thank you all for your patience. And Mr. Cochran, welcome to Sacramento. We appreciate your taking the day to join us this afternoon. A little self-introduction and then tell us how you're doing.
I've been involved in farming for 30 years. I've spent the first 4 years working in conventional agriculture in the strawberry business, and we grew a little broccoli and some other cherry tomatoes and so forth. But I was exposed to on several occasions to some pretty heavy doses of the pesticides, and sort of came to the conclusion that I didn't want to work around that anymore. And so I tried to talk to some of the people in the industry, said, you know, can't we get away without using the fumigants on the strawberries? And they said, no, there's no way, it's impossible. And I said, well, what about rotating crops? And they said, well, no, it'd be 20 years, you couldn't, you know, and then you don't know whether it'd work or not. And finally I said to myself, well, gee, that sounds like an opportunity when everybody says it can't be done. And so off I went and leased 4 acres of land on my own, actually with a partner. And we did half the ground fumigated and half the ground unfumigated. And sure enough, we had about a slightly lower yield, 15 or 20% on the unfumigated ground. But the quality of the berries was better, actually, and we weren't devastated as people had predicted. And so we went along for a couple of years like that, and then switched to organic production, partly sort of inadvertently because my partner was the one who did the spraying of the malathion, and he was a Niners fan, and he was scheduled to do it on a Sunday, or I forget what day it was, but anyway, we missed a couple springs because the Niners were playing, and but nothing really terrible happened. And at any rate, I kept going and became certified organic a few years later, and was dealing with the question about soil fumigation and looking for an alternative, and rented some ground that had been half in Brussels sprouts and half in artichokes, and found that sure enough on the Brussels sprout part of the ground I had no problems whatsoever, and on the artichoke part of the ground I had big problems. And started scratching my head, and that was around 20 years ago, and have since worked out a rotation about 5 or 6 years, including 1 or 2 crops of broccoli and or cauliflower, and then also 1 or 2 seasons dryland fallow. And I lease all my land. I pay rent on the ground every year. And last year we were probably one of the most profitable companies in the entire United States at about 3.2% of gross. And this year we look to be even more profitable. We do a little over $2 million of business a year. Our markets, our demographic is about 1/3 the Whole Foods crowd, the upper income people, about 1/3 the middle income people, and the non-Whole Food shoppers, and about 1/3 the sort of not quite lower income, but definitely not upper middle income people. And I find that we're able to produce a crop with, obviously we lose money once every once in a while, but on the last 26 years, this has been my source of income, and it works fine. If you sort of step go up to 100,000 feet and look at the state of California and look at the water problems, I mean, I wonder whether, you know, we might kill two birds with one stone here by introducing a different farming system whereby we rotated ground around to a dry fallow period and with a little bit more intention. In other words, right now people dry fallow not because they want to, but because they have to. But what if that was really part of the program? We'd use less water. Maybe we'd have less. We'd have, you know, more in the process of rotation. You have less pest pressure, perhaps because you have more variety in the crops grown. Really, the economics are important to me here because we really, Mr. Berryhill will, you know, I can really sympathize with the position. I mean, you've got to make money at this. I mean, it's got to work economically. One of the things that intrigues me, you know, I used to be the only organic strawberry grower in California 20 years ago, and now there's, I don't know, at least 100, if not more, organic growers. I used to be 100% of the organic strawberries. Now I'm 1% of the organic strawberries in California. And, you know, that's probably true of tomatoes and probably true of peaches and walnuts and a bunch of other things. And so, you know, there are some people who are making a good living at growing these crops without the pesticides. And so what intrigues me is the idea that maybe we should be getting ahead of the game here. Maybe, you know, we have an opportunity like Detroit missed, you know, 15 years ago when they were talking about airbags and fuel efficiency and small cars and everything like that, and Detroit wasn't paying attention, and Toyota came and ate their lunch, you know. And maybe if we just sort of, hearings like this and others sort of say, hey, you know, there's something out there that's telling us something here, and maybe we should be thinking about moving in a different direction, and maybe it'll be to our long-term economic benefit to pay attention. Thank you.
Mr. Cochran, thank you very much. Mr. Berryhill, any questions?
Yeah. You know, I would tend to agree with that last statement you made, Jim, except that the rest of the world doesn't seem to go along with it, and then they eat us up, and that's what worries me. Just a couple quick questions. Do your plants come from a nursery that fumigates?
About half of them do, and about half of them are from an organic nursery. Oh. And the organic ones are fine. They're vigorous, and they're certified pest-free.
Well, I applaud you. I mean, I think this is how agriculture, through small farms and various spirited farmers. I know during my days of raising apples that I wasn't real wild about going through and spraying with guthion every 14 days. It just didn't get me real excited. Yeah. And so I looked, and I think most farmers do. They look for alternative methods to the degree that they feel comfortable will work. And I ended up using these pheromone disruptors that you hung one in every 6th tree, and I never had to go through the orchard with a tractor, and it really paid for me to do that. And so I appreciate what you're doing. Again, this is not about supporting or not support. I support the process in California, but thanks for coming up today.
Sure, thanks.